This meeting is being recorded.
Got it.
All right, super duper. So I want to welcome everybody to a new series of Zoom conferences that I'm going to be doing. I did my first one yesterday with David and Steve, and I decided that I want to maintain a theme, and that theme is science and spirituality. And we're going to, today, we're going to talk about wave-particle duality. And I want to introduce Kelly, Louise Parker. And I'm going to ask you, Louise, to tell us a little bit about yourself. What are your interests? What is your educational background? Where do you see yourself? Those sorts of things. So go ahead and take it away.
Okay. So to be honest, educationally wise, school didn't really fit because I'm an audio visual learner. So high functionality, you know that we learn uniquely. And so when I was told to read something and retain it, it didn't really sink. And also when I was told to explain things in long sort of terms, like so to break it into bits instead of me. So my way was, but the answer's right. Why do I have to show you how I got to it? Sort of thing. So the teachers didn't like that. So that didn't work out so well for me. Predominantly, I majored in art, and I love art. It's a passion that I hold deep, both music and drawing, if you will, and painting. So yeah, I went about in life working like a normal individual, doing manual labor, and then had some children and spent 21 years raising some really amazing individuals. They're still here, obviously, but
you have 5 kids, if I'm not mistaken?
So four. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 here and 3 in the ether. So so non-physical. As we know, matter ceases, but energy does not. So that goes into the whole polarity again. So we can go into that a bit more. But
awesome.
I basically I've had a few near-death experiences, 7 to be precise to this date. And
wow.
each time I have a near-death experience, it expedites my spiritual journey. Not that I'm encouraging near-death experiences, guys. They're not that pleasant.
Oh, that's
We're not
funny.
about the suicide squad here. We're trying to cease the suicide squad. So
yeah, right.
Right. So that being said, I highly resonate on the number 7, and have pretty well researched everything that I can that comes in groups of 7, and there are a lot, by the way.
Yes, this is true.
Now, as we know, Earth is the 7th of the planet true system in this universe. So I call Big Blue the 7th school. Like it's like your 7th school.
I love that.
So it's like year 7. So to my knowledge, we had been living in a golden age, and as far as my wisdom goes, when the energetic signatures on Earth reached 7.7 billion, we moved into a tachyonic age, which is really cool. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, let me give a little bit about myself.
Of course.
And I'm sure some people that are watching this are people that are members of my group or follow me on my page, know some of this, but my educational background includes a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of California in Santa Barbara. And my love and passion has always been learning. I remember the day that I learned how to read. I was 5 years old, and it was like such, I just now got the chills just thinking about it, because I was in kindergarten, and it was such a glorious day. My first love was reading, and it was a way to not only understand things, it was an opportunity to use my imagination and begin to learn how to create. And as a kid, I was always very creative. I loved school, but I also loved sports. I played all the sports: baseball, basketball, soccer. I ran track and cross country. I did wrestling, and then I actually played football my last year. And I just had a lot of fun as a kid. My twin brother and I, we were adopted, and my parents were great. They loved us so much. They gave us so many great opportunities. We had a wonderful childhood. I grew up with a couple of conditions that I came to better understand later. Actually, four conditions to be exact.
Yeah.
I have a biological mother, or had a biological mother and biological father that were both addicts, and both of their fathers were alcoholics and addicts. And I had no idea what that was. My parents raised us to, just say no to drugs and all that. And yeah, I definitely went down that path. I've been clean since July 6th of 1995. And
Awesome.
I also grew up not knowing that I had ADHD. And the reason why I didn't know it is because most kids get diagnosed with it when they have issues focusing in school. Because I loved school, I never had a problem focusing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reason why I didn't realize that I had it. What I understand about that condition is that it's not about an inability to focus. It's that we are selectively able to focus. So if we're into something and we enjoy it, then guess what? We're going to be able to focus.
Yeah.
The other thing I had was, and I still have, is OCD. I was always very neat. Everything had to be just so. My parents thought it was cute, and to me, it was like tormenting. It was not fun at all. It kind of sucked, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
And in junior high school, I started to have my first bouts of depression, and recently got through a couple of bouts. And the last bout, which occurred like 3 weeks ago, was sort of a double whammy, where I experienced whatever variant is floating around of the good old COVID-19 virus. So it was like a double whammy, and it was quite an interesting experience. I appreciated it. It was it was quite miserable, and physically, mentally, emotionally draining. And it got really dark, and yet I knew that it would not last forever. So here I am on the other, the other side of the waveform, as it were. And I can say that I started my reascension when I had, I'll just call it my revelation of knowing why I exist, which occurred on April 12th of 2020, which happened to be Easter Sunday. And I'm very much inspired by Jesus, but I've also resonated deeply with Buddha as well as Taoism. So I sort of draw my information, my inspiration, wisdom, knowledge, everything from everything that I read, everything that I experience. And here we are today, living this, I feel like, the greatest time in human history. And I have no other way to describe it. If you're not grateful to be alive currently here on Earth, you're not paying attention. And that's as kind as I can put it. I don't want to sound like I'm fully aware that people are suffering. I get it. However, one of the things that I'm working on with books that I'm writing is making the connection between, again, science and spirituality. And I'm addressing sort of the unresolved and most mysterious aspect of our being, which is sentience. So sentience is sort of the bridge between consciousness and awareness. So I'll more often use the word consciousness. I believe that consciousness quantifies our reality, and the awareness qualifies it. And the bridge is sentience, and everything in the universe that exists is sentient. And it doesn't matter if it's organic, inorganic, synthetic. It's all everything that exists in a hyperstate of physicality. And I like to use scientific terms when I'm talking about scientific reasoning and logic. So I think there's two hyperstates, physicality and non-physicality. And quantum mechanics is great. It's highly accurate, and yet it's not absolutely certain. And the whole beautiful part about the wave particle duality is that it's an opportunity to understand something called superposition, where there is always a superimposed state of existence, and the wave form is there to transform and move the information from a point of transmission, a point of origin to a point of transmission. And that point of that point of we'll call the final destination is a detection, and every detection is recorded in space-time. And I'm sure have heard of the Akashic Records. I believe the Akashic Records is just, another way to call what I feel is the foundation of reality, and that is space-time. So in terms of, the whole idea of wave particle duality, I think everything that exists has that. So if we want to look at, let's say, the universe as being the particle, and the function of the particle is to be observed, to be sensed, to be detected, to be measured, analyzed, so on and so forth. And then the whole purpose or function of space-time is to cause itself to basically fold in very large amounts, and that is going to generate the effect field of gravity, and the subatomic distortions are going to create or generate electromagnetism. So that's my overall take on we'll just say wave particle duality. And we could look at anything. If you want to look at space-time and ask what's the wave particle duality of that, well, space is the wave, and the time is the particle. You have to have both of those in order to experience anything. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%, same page. Yeah. So I think it was April 23rd, I managed to have full recog, if you wanted to call it that.
What year?
And April 23rd, 2020. So full recog. Yeah. And I sat with that, and I was like, I remember I drew a picture and took, a timestamp on it. It was April 23rd at 3:33 a.m. And literally I observed everything from an inner and outer moment in about 14 minutes linear. And it was like just mind blown, like and and then I was like, went through the motions of more gathering of the fractal elements and so on and so forth. And I've put a few things down to sort of go through with you to help
please
you understand that. So I basically was given a timeline when that happened, and I was also given tasks, if you will, that I had set for myself. So some of them include transition and training for seraphim status. That's obviously already happened. And then galactic overseer, planetary advisor, and then transitioning to infinity, as we know that happened April 23rd. And then my current mission is to create, if you will, heaven on earth. So in order to allow a totality of abundance, no lack, no distortional information. Now, if you understand entropy and the void, if you will, that's something I'd like to go into, is that in previous ages, if you will, we would go into entropy, and we would not be able to retain the information that we retrieved from that entropic journey, and it would be lost as we come up through the time-space continuum. So my idea was, when I went to source, if you will, I said that, can we put safety nets there so that if we slip, we can catch that information and bring it back up again? And source said, off you go and try and do it. So off I came, and I started finding individuals with information who I then aligned to a position, like a safety net, if you will. And it's as these individuals, the unique energetic signatures come through that, as they come up and down through entropy, they would monitor not only their status, but they would also help them to align the information or wisdom that they have retrieved so I say, like, the Akashic wisdom, and the label, again, it's just labels. So once you get to a certain point, there are no labels. So it's sort of hard to bring the information back to a primitive state, if you will. But so as they go down into the void, the idea was that the information would not be lost or just left in this void of so matter. As we know, we have light matter and we have dark matter or antimatter. We know very little around antimatter. So we're only sort of just digging into the antimatter, starting to really understand it. So prior, a lot of scientists thought that the information was lost in the black hole or the void. Since then, we have observed and realized that it is not actually lost, but it is not visible to the eye. So
Correct.
It can really be, to my knowledge, the best way we can understand antimatter is through sound waves. I say that when I found source or infinity, it enhanced my hearing so much so that I can actually hear antimatter. So it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool. If you can imagine sonar waves like a whale, and if you imagine our heartbeat as being a baseline, then you would have in a symphony, if you will, you have like your bars, and then you have your notes along pauses, crescendos, bass drops, like this. So imagine our heartbeat is our baseline or our bars. And then as we journey, we are adding these notes, melodies, crescendos, bass drops, things like that. Ultimately, people say, oh, I'm stuck. Like, it's like I'm not going anywhere. You're just putting a pause in your bars. So you're having a breath, basically. It's like, and then off you go again. So when I work with an individual, predominantly I use sound, and I would feel into that individual's baseline, and then I would help them to align their unique energetic signature so that they are aware of thyself, so the Trinity, and so mind, body, and spirit, if you will. And then from there, once they are aware of their unique energetic signature, no labels. So you have literally no labels. So anyone that's saying I'm God, I am an angel, I'm this, you are gathering fractals. So that I have to be really specific about that. Now, as you do that, you will move through these motions, if you will, and you will gather those fractals, embody the information from those fractals, and then you would become aligned and know your unique energetic signature. So therefore, for the mediums and channelers that we have, that helps them identify their signature as opposed to somebody else's signature. Now, I believe that this is one of the most imperative things as mediums or even spiritual workers that we can understand, because then you are reading specifically one unique energetic signature, or your own unique energetic signature. Because what happens is we get quantum entanglement, which you know very well, and you will get a distorted reading. So it's imperative that anyone that is working in this field 100% understands their own unique energetic signature. Again, labels. So if you're speaking with someone and they're saying, I'm angel da da da, they're still doing that inner work. So it's really imperative that that message gets across to individuals, and there is no judgment in that. There just is discernment. And so as we go through these motions and we do open ourselves up to that infinity, you can turn a light switch off, but the power is always running.
Yep.
So closest I can explain that is that when we are in sleep state or in a comatose state, we are in what we class as stasis. So like the light switch is off, but the power is still running. So when you come out of that motion, that stasis, if you will, you would then activate the energetic signature again and move that through, and the light would shine, if that makes sense. So it's like you turn the switch on when you wake up, turn the switch off when you're not. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So basically I came in and I wanted to know the soul. Like that was my thing. So like, I want to know the soul. Yeah. And I was always, from a very little girl, I always drew the right eye. Always have drawn the right eye. And it took a while to understand why I was doing that.
I'm sorry, what is that?
So the right eye.
The right eye. Right eye.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
For instance, this one here, which I did last night. Hopefully this is going to work.
That looks great. Awesome.
Yeah. So every single picture I draw as I channel, and that I was actually channeling one of the members of the group last night. So it contains the right eye. Now, to me, you have light and dark, if you will, right? So in one eye, it's like day. In one eye, it's like night, if that makes sense, to break it down into layman's terms. And
makes perfect sense to me.
Yep. So when I'm channeling, I look into that person's eye, if you will, and then, because the eye to me is the window to the soul. So that's as close as I can explain it to anyone.
Perfect. That's great.
And so then you combine the visual of looking into the eye or the soul with the sound or baseline, and then you get a really beautiful, precise reading, which is just amazing for individuals that I can share that. So, and I'm super grateful.
Awesome.
And so that includes, as you can see in that picture, there is a baseline, and then it includes maybe some Akashic symbols. It may include mathematical equations. It may include, like, there's a myriad of information. And depending on what that individual is seeking at that one present now moment, it will vary each time that channeling happens or occurs. So it's been really beneficial for me. Predominantly, I sit in the sevens. And so if you imagine dimensions, so like 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, you can say it like that, or you could say like conscious dimensions. So rather than a physicality dimension, so in the conscious dimensions, I believe that on this earth plane, there are 3 sets of 7, and that is 21 conscious dimensions. So if you have 7 chakras, there is above and below of each chakra, a genetic makeup of 21 conscious dimensions that you can access. Outside of that, it is infinite, like absolutely infinite. Like you could just go and go and go and go and go. Like it's just phenomenal. So
that's awesome. That all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I've shown another one. I've put it to show you guys. Hopefully it's going to transmit. Well, this is really not easy on a computer, you know that. Like I will get to printing them. So this one here is explaining the as above, so below, and the
awesome.
eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So the guide said to me when I channeled this, So the Akashic wisdom that's on the side, hopefully we can like get that through somehow. I'm really not good at this. I've got to work on this because it's mirrored. There we go. Right. So
I saw it. I saw it. Okay. It came through.
So that basically, I say that our source guide spoke of the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, universal law, also transferal of the seventh seal. What comes up must go down, as above, so below. Intention begins to show. So that's from home body source connection, and it says that I'm stable in that connection. So for anyone who wants any of these done, just hit me up and I'll be able to work something out.
Feel free to post what you could do in the Sight Sound Spirit group. I want to always encourage people to, feel free to promote whatever services they are offering, and you guys could work things out on your own. But feel free to post, an announcement that states what it is that you are able to do, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
So basically, when I sit with anyone, I have 7 cups that are here. You can't see them because the camera's like not great, but
okay.
they represent the 7 sounds of the chakra, if you will, or the body alignment that we have. So when I ring these bells, instantaneously, the human body, will react to maybe all or maybe one. Now, if the body reacts to one in particular, that tells me that one of your chakras needs a little bit more alignment. I did a session with Sally and she said, I love 963. And I said to her, you need to work on your crown chakra. So, and so we did. And she's lit up like a light beam now. She's cruising along beautifully. So those sounds that we do use every day as we resonate through our journey. I see it that we are still and everything is coming to us. So rather than we are moving, if you are still and your source is moving, then everything is coming to you. You can flip it if you wanted to, and you could be moving and source is still. But either it has to work sort of both sides, if that makes sense. On the side, like the scientific side of it, you've got a really good grasp of that. I have studied physics and special relativity a little bit to understand the quantum mechanics of how everything works. I do believe that Roger Waters, when I read some of his work, I was just like mind blown. Alan Watts is a legend, absolutely legend. Eckhart Tolle taught me to be, like just be, like just be. That was huge. But Alan Watts taught me to be present, like right here, like you're right here. So when I sort of put it all together, and Sadhguru did an amazing job at helping me with addiction. I too come from a lineage of addicts, if you will. And also we had an extremely high suicide rate in our family tree. So both my parents committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's been a journey. No shit. But every single thing that I've experienced, both extreme and just pleasant, if you will, has been another piece of the puzzle. So giving me more information that I required. So to understand the soul in complete form, I had to understand loss, pain, suffering. I still don't understand sacrifice, guys. So still like trying to get my head around that. I don't think I ever will. And so for us as a soul entity, or a unique energetic signature, we don't understand without physicality. We don't understand loss, separation, pain, all these things that we learn in this here 7th school. Yeah. So while everyone's going, I don't like it, I don't want it, this is the only place you can learn it.
Yeah.
Like outside of here, We don't experience pain. We don't experience separation. We are one together.
When you say pain, do you mean all forms or just physical pain?
All forms. So emotional. So yeah, go on.
And the only reason why the thought came to mind is because one of the things that I do is I view everything as information. Everything.
Yes.
Information
everything
does
is information.
Yeah, and the only thing information does is it transforms.
Correct.
And the whole point of transformation is to grow. So if what you're saying is true, then that means that there is no hell after you die. Is that a safe interpretation of that concept you just described? Okay.
Yeah, most definitely. So we live in, so once we lose physicality, if you will, so as we know, matter only exists for a certain length of time. So in my past lives, the best way to describe it is the maximum length of time I've managed to keep a physical body alive was 777 years, and that was a long time ago. Since then, we've been extremely domesticated, which has changed our genetic makeup, our epigenetics, if you will, and we're pushing shit uphill to get past 144 now. Like, we're really pushing shit uphill, like, because of the things that we do and the things that are happening around us externally. It definitely affects the life period of the matter, the physical form. But everything, as you know, a seed starts, grows a tree, bears fruit falls off, it rots. So that's the best way I can, and it's given back to the earth. Next seed, off it goes. So
it's
this is
cyclical.
Exactly. So this is where kinesiology is really good at explaining not only the information side of things, but also explaining the physicality side of things. So not only are we magnetically and kinetically drawn to each other and our own self, which helps us to exist, if you will, but we are also connected in the non-physical sense at a subatomic level. So it's like phenomenal. Yeah. So people are like, you're stealing my work. You're using my words. And I'm like, no, we're all using the same, we're all using the same words, like just different perception because of their instance. So their now moment. So my perception in this now moment is heaven on earth. However, somebody else who is still gathering fractals or aligning themselves may say it's like hell.
Yeah.
So the places where we describe heaven and hell, the polarity, if you will, is inside. Right here. It's right here. Yeah.
And it's within, right? I mean, it's again, the duality of, again, physicality and non-physicality. We don't have to look elsewhere if we want to create, let's say, heaven on earth, because we're already in the Garden of Eden.
Correct.
So
beautiful. Yeah.
And you feel it internally, and now we're talking about extrasensory perception, because I do a lot of work in writing about the 5 basic senses that are used to receive the information from the entire array of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then we have 3, I call them spiritual senses of space, motion, and time. So you can have a sense of space, that's called proprioception. You can obviously have a sense of time. I mean, we all know what that feels like. And then to have a sense of motion, it's interesting because you have different effect fields. You could feel a sense of motion through the effects of gravity. If you just like stand and then you spin and then you feel dizzy, I mean, you're feeling motion in action. And what I'm
energy in motion. So emotion.
Yeah, exactly. I've used that
so
terminology.
When you say, the best way I can go with time to explain it, so I believe there's 7 senses. There's not 8 because time is a construct, and it's everyone has their own perception, and I'm willing to, like, I'm very open, like, so
Sure.
I don't discount anything because I believe that's how we grow, right? But to my knowledge, if I said to you, how can we speak at the same time, but you're 19 hours or 19 and a half hours behind me?
That's superposition. Yeah,
does time exist?
Well, it's interesting. One of my favorite topics is time. So,
yeah, me too.
so when somebody says time does not exist, I believe they actually mean that it is another illusion that helps us define our reality. So again, if you use it for informational purposes, and your perception of time is that of a linear vector,
I believe we live in a non-relative time, like a non-relative time container. So when we moved from the golden age into the tachyonic age, we're living in a non-relative time container. So if you can imagine that all timelines are coexistent in one quantum entanglement, basically. So we have access and that explains the access to the Akashic records and so on and so forth. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. I choose not to. I understand the traditional understandings of dimensions. I also interpret the information a little bit differently. So from my perception, I don't feel that time is the fourth dimension, because it is only a means to define the experience. So again, if for example, you evaluate your day and you ask yourself, how did you spend your time? Did I waste my time, or did I spend my time wisely? Well, there's no way to waste something that is infinite. And you can, however, invest your time wisely by paying attention to however you're currently feeling. So that's another concept that I like to talk.
Time creates structure, if you will. So any sort of numerical or alphabetical information creates some form of informational structure. So order. Order, correct. Yeah, correct.
Which would be the opposite of entropy, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Woo! Yes. Someone that gets it. Woo!
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Well, as soon as you started talking about entropy, I knew that you knew a lot more about science than many might be willing to believe, based on, and I don't want to say lack of education, because you've taken upon yourself to inform yourself by researching the topics like physics and all of these fun things. So you are educated, and there's not a lack of knowledge, because everything that has ever occurred,
like there's so much,
it's already happened. So anything that ever pops into your mind, and you also use the term tachyon, anything that pops in your mind, we can view that and maybe even use the word tachyon, a quantity of information. Maybe that's what a tachyon is. I don't know. I just thought of that.
No, you're right on it. You're spot on.
And one of the things that Einstein talked about, he said that nothing is faster than the speed of light. Now, I think he was giving us a clue, because that actually has two meanings. When you say nothing is faster than the speed of light, what it means is it means two things. It means nothing physical is faster than the speed of light.
Correct.
Because the purest form of physicality is light. Now, if you understand one principle, and that principle is simply this: anything is possible. Okay. So if you can begin to think about that as being a possibility, then you will learn how to use your belief system to eventually believe that anything is possible. Once you reach a level of awareness where you know that anything is possible, that includes nothing. Because I used to think that nothing is impossible. Well, if you believe and know that anything is possible, then that means that nothing is possible. So nothing is faster than the speed of light. And to me, it's that simple.
It is. And so we humans have a tendency to overcomplicate or to
100%.
so you can break it down quite simplistically. And I think that's, as we go through these chats, that's what we're doing for individuals, is we're trying to break down some really complex descriptive terms into, if you will, layman's terms that they can process and then start to evolve into and understand. So there is a God complex that individuals have, and that they're in part, so the pain lessons, the humbling, if you will, that happens over our lifetime, this helps to, if you will, align a more balanced, infinite being. So we don't come with this egoic self that is, I'm right, you're wrong, it's my way or the highway, I'm God, I can change everything and I'm going to do it now, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So once you reach a certain level of awareness, you are quite humbled in the awe, like the awe of our existence. So it is, to wake up every day is a miracle itself, because when we get up, like, we've gone from a physical state, we've completely taken our energy from, like, we put our body into a stasis like motion or moment, and we leave this and we go and we do so much more galactically, etherically, so outside of the body. So that includes healing modalities, grabbing information, like it's phenomenal, some of us, like what we're doing. And that can't be monitored through visuals, because our soul body, if you will, or spirit body, is that in is so close to antimatter, if you will, that again, the only way we could possibly even somewhat observe that action or that those motions is by sound. So the Schumann resonance gives us a pretty good baseline of that activity regarding our spirit or soul energetic movements. So if I'm really busy spiritually, you would see the Schumann resonance might hit a 77, you know, like we might get a 7-7 on there. But the KP7 is a resonant sort of thing. So I say my initials, the best way I can break it down, KLP, kinetic linear presence. I set all my little sticky notes pretty good. So my date of birth, 17th of the 7th, 1979. So I would remember the sevens. It was deliberate. Like everything we've done, when you start to really see your story, like your story that you wanted to live out, you go, oh my God, I'm like a genius. Like it's just mind blows you. Like oh my God, look at all these sticky notes I left behind, you know, so I wouldn't forget. But I explain the journey down, if you will, as imagine children in the ether, and source is like, pack your suitcase, you're going on a holiday. And we're like, woo, pick me, like this, right? So because we're infinite, we get bored, right? So off we go and we chuck everything in our suitcase, like we're just throwing it in like children do. Yeah. So you throw it all in, and then we come down, and there's a slight amnesia because of the time stretch continuum, and going into the void or the flux vortex as we come through. And then you get down here and you forget everything. And then you realize at some point you had a suitcase and you need a clean pair of undies. Yeah, like, because like the trip's been hectic, right? So you need a clean pair of undies, and you're like this, oh my God, I can't find anything. Yeah, like a kid, like children, right?
Right.
So some of us are lucky enough that we'll come across an extended master, if you will, and I don't really like the term, but somebody who is well and truly aligned, and they will help you to categorize, compress, and align that suitcase so that you can just reach into the right hand top corner and say, there's my clean undies, I'm good to go. So basically, as we sit through these informational sessions like we're doing now, Michael, we are helping each other, because it is a mutual energetic exchange, to align those subatomic particles and those informational streams that we can access. And so it happens quite quickly. So like, as we know, the speed of light is quite fast. Going beyond that, as I was saying, antimatter is faster again. So it takes about 0.17 of a second for me to transfer information at a tachyonic level. So it's like faster than that. Like, it's like super fast. So every
Lickety
note,
split.
yeah. So every note that comes out of our mouth as we're communicating is in fact a transmission of informational data that is happening at a rate faster than the speed of light, only we don't see it. So it's really amazing how we actually integrate and upgrade each other in this now moment. It's phenomenal, and to witness it is one of the most amazing things. So I've witnessed it a long time ago. To witness it again is an experience like I'm so grateful. It is phenomenal. So the last time I witnessed this was about 474 BC. So it's an amazing experience, and to be able to relay that information that I have over 8,972 reincarnations or reanimations has been an honor. And it's also been an honor to work with other individuals who have reanimated at this time and have also had many reanimations in their lifetime. So it's super cool, and it is an amazing experience, as you know. So yeah, you talk now.
Yeah.
I talk too much.
No, you didn't talk too much at all. I've just been enjoying listening to someone that obviously gets it.
Yes.
I was thinking about a few things. One of the things that I've come to acknowledge is that I'm very much a word nerd, but I'm also a science geek. I love the scientific community. What I think happens, and the reason for a lot of the confusion, is the terminology and the word choice. For example, antiparticle or antimatter. So the word anti,
I know.
it means oppositional.
Yeah.
It's actually symbiotic.
Correct. Yeah.
And if you want to, for example, understand that photons are created when an electron changes its state or its phase.
Yep. Yes.
And that involves something called a positron, which is the anti-electron, if you will. Correct. And it's super interesting. The whole idea of antimatter is super interesting. It's necessary, however, to understand that it is non-physical. It's not the antithesis.
And I think that's where the anti comes into it. That's where the anti comes into it. So I see it like light matter, dark matter. That's easier way to describe it, if you will. So, if you think of it like that, so you can't see dark matter. It's like when you walk outside and it's dark, right? Like pitch black night. There's no street lights, overcast, if you will. There's no stars that you can see. And you're trying to get a light refraction so that you can view what is there. But it's like if you walk into a completely blacked out room, there is no sense of space. There is no sense of, area, if you will. There is just this like darkness. So that's how I explain, if you will, in an easier term, antimatter and then matter. like, because it's not really, it's all matter. Like, we couldn't exist without it. So if you tell someone that inside you, you have the power that is beyond a nuclear bomb, and we can autonomously control that, and that it is a chaotic at best energetic signature, without knowledge of how to use that antimatter. And this is why we go through these educational phases, so that when you are accessing that antimatter or dark matter, you have enough information, wisdom, to be able to control that energetic signature so that it doesn't become chaotic, and it is able to be sustained in this now moment. So that's how I sort of see it. Everyone sees it differently, obviously. But,
no, it's great.
You know, if you go around telling people, well, you're like a little baby nuclear bomb and rah, 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 they freak out, right? So if you just turn around and we say dark matter, light matter, get a harmonic balance or symbiosis, if you will, we manage to get this beautiful symphony and synchronicity that then we can share with the bulk of humanity. And it's really cool. It's just a beautiful thing. It really is.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. The whole thing with dark matter is super interesting. It intrigues me. I found it interesting when I started learning more about it, and the idea that I think it's a very small number. The observable universe is only like 5%, and the rest of it is the dark energy and the dark matter. And
correct.
What's interesting about dark matter specifically is that scientists who are very logical are trying to find a dark matter particle. Now, if you understand the implications of the name dark matter, there's two things to consider. First and foremost is the word dark. It just is a way to designate its inability to radiate. Now,
yes.
The other thing to consider is matter. What is matter? Matter is again, it's the hyper state of physicality. Now, there is this other thing that came about from special relativity. It's the relationship or the mathematical proof of the relationship between energy and matter. That's E equals mc squared. And what's interesting about that is, again, it's very simple, it's elegant, and if people can begin the process of understanding the fundamentals of physics and even quantum mechanics, which scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
What you don't have to do to understand quantum mechanics is be really awesome at math. Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. So when I was at school with math, like I said to you, they wanted me to explain, let's say it was algebra. So they wanted it in long form, right? And I was like, no, but I know the answer. Like, I know the answer. Why do I have to explain it? Like, that's 2 pages. Like, I'm not writing 2 pages. Like, what are you like? No. And they're like, oh, well, you won't understand it completely. Well, all evidence proves contrary. I really do understand it.
If you understand the answer, so a mathematical expression is asking a question. So when you say 1 plus 0 equals, you're asking the question, what does 1 plus 0 equal? And if you know the answer to the question, then you understand it.
Yeah.
Why?
And this is where, as we're going through the educative process, if you will, and implementing more teachings into our educational platforms, if you will, we're starting to realize that we don't have to overcomplicate these teachings, that it's actually quite a simplistic. Oh my God. Can you be quiet 2 seconds? I've got a kid.
No worries.
2 seconds.
No worries at all. We'll enjoy our moment of inner peace as we look at the background of this
Okay, we're back.
manga. I was enjoying what's on your screen behind you.
Yeah.
That, like, I love that stuff. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's so simple, and yet, like you said, we overcomplicate why do we feel the need to overcomplicate it?
Exactly.
So
100%.
if you understand what the Akashic records are, and you know that God is the source of all information, this is what it means to be omniscient, is to know and understand and appreciate that God has and is the source of all information. Then what happens is you just have to ask the questions. So what do you want to know? And if you know that the answer is there for you to resolve, then you're not really discovering, you're rediscovering. And that's the joy.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you 100%. So it's my son Matthew, who he stayed only about 6 weeks in the physicality, but if you read in biblical terms, Matthew 7:7, ask
It's one of
and
my
you
favorites.
shall receive.
Oh my gosh,
ask
that's my one of my all-time favorite Bible passages.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so again with the sevens, it was I can't deny that I hold the key, if you will, to the sevens, because like I've had so many, like I've had 7 children, 7 life partners. I've had before I chose a route of like celibacy or really digging deep inside. So I sort of, for a while there, I followed the monk path and really silence for 11 days.
Which faith? Buddhism?
So yeah, predominantly Buddhism. But I did study Sufism as well. So
interesting.
So amazing. So Rumi is like one of the most phenomenal poets I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And it's phenomenal. But yeah, going back to that, so I remember back in 2020, after I had my expedited awakening, we'll call it, or a near-death experience. Straight after that, I was guided by Source to do 11 days silent meditation. So I literally, 11 days, I didn't speak a word. I just was like, nope, like I'm not talking. And the amount of information that just poured into me was phenomenal. Like it was huge. So silent and listen are the same.
Yeah. If we just take as many moments as possible, and if we have family members, if we have loved ones, if we have children that we are responsible for, it's going to be real difficult. However, you can experience infinity in like fractions of a second. Correct. It doesn't take long. And if you understand that when you are in that infinite state of stillness, I call that the 0th dimension. That's where you literally have the opportunity to, first and foremost, change your point of view to see whatever it is that you want to or need to see, to ascertain the value of the overall experience, and then become more aware. And then call that, I came up with a concept, neutral observational perception. And the reason why I like that is because it's a place where you can learn how to refrain from being prejudicial or predetermining how you think something is going to feel prior to actually experiencing it. And it's also a place where the past and the future are unified. Yes. So everything does move in waves, everything, including time. So that's why time is not linear, unless you view it as such. If you view time, if you want to have a better understanding of how time moves, go to a pond of still water and drop drop a pebble, and then the radiating. Okay. So the point of impact, is the 0 point of that particular creation. And that way you don't have to worry about whether or not it's the past or the future, because it is unified. They both contain the same value. And that also brings to mind another thing that I was working on, in terms of our relationship with the universe. What we really crave, perhaps more than anything, is certainty. We like to be certain of things, right? So I'm going to walk you through a little exercise that I think you'll appreciate. And it does require just a very basic understanding of math. And what I'm going to do is prove that positive and negative are basically the same valuable information. Okay.
Correct.
So if you are at your 0 point, would you agree that -1 and +1 have the same value, the same absolute value, right?
Yes.
And that's easy to sort of think about. You already understand what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So do I. Yeah.
So if you are also aware of basically there's 3 properties of the wave. There's amplitude, there's wavelength, and frequency. So a lot of people that resonate with 3, 6, and 9 will totally appreciate this.
Yes.
The amplitude is the intensity of the signal. And at the height of the wave, at the highest point of the waveform, that is basically what is called the wave function, which is the probability of the observation happening, or the probability of the event occurring. Okay.
Yeah.
And and it can be expressed in a perfect circle. Now, if you, for example, understand that quantum mechanics is basically about the probability of an occurrence happening, then what you can do is analyze, measure, detect, and try to make sense out of the definable moment. So when you detect something, you're actually redefining reality. You're causing a partial collapse of the wave function, which then presents the particle that is to be observed. And when we understand it from that point of view, now let's talk about how to resolve the complexity of something. So if, for example, you're going to go to a job interview, okay, you have an infinite array of ways to view the possible outcome, right? You can make it as complicated as you want, or you could keep it simple. You could say to yourself, what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario for that particular situation is that you don't get the job. Right? That would be a reasonable answer to what is, so the question being, what is the worst case scenario? What is the best case scenario? The best case scenario would probably be that you get the job. Okay. Again, if you can accept both possibilities as being beneficial to your development, because it's meant to happen. So quantum mechanics is about probability. However, the chances of every event that has ever occurred is exactly 100%. Okay. So
there are many variables, but yes, 100%.
Right. The variables are sort of where we have fun. Okay. And the variables have everything to do with your preferences, which is directly linked to your current state of resonance, as well as your identification code of who you are, the frequencies that resonate with your physical body. And what you can do with every experience that has not occurred is instead of predetermining how you think it's going to feel. So for example, you have the ability to say to yourself, oh my gosh, oh, this is going to be so stressful. Oh my gosh. And then, actually draw those feelings to you, because the universe thinks that's what you want.
It's like, oh, right? You need that. You need it. You need to be shit scared. Like, oh my God, like make her shit scared. Like,
because you're comfortable with that type of certainty. So when you tell yourself, oh, there's definitely no way I'm going to get the job. Well, then guess what? You're not going to get the job.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel miserable even before you go through the experience of being interviewed. Okay. Yeah. So if you accept the best and worst case scenario of any experience, then what you can do is understand that you've given yourself a 50-50 chance.
Yes.
Okay. With a 50-50 chance, that's a fair chance, right? It's easy to give yourself that, right?
Better odds than the lottery.
Yeah, right. So if you go into any experience giving yourself a 50-50 chance of success, now what you can do is mathematically reduce the complexity of that probability. So another way to express 50% is 1/2.
Yep.
And what we can do is understand the value of numbers. What is the simpler of those two numbers, 1 or 2?
1.
Yeah, simple. Okay. So if we know that, so we're actually looking at 3 symbols. We're looking at a 1. We're looking at the line that we use to divide those two. Okay.
Yep.
So 1 divided by 2 is an opportunity to reduce the complexity of that overall expression. Okay. So if you know that the 1 has the absolute value of being a known, we could call it a certainty, an absolute certainty is 1.
Yeah.
And we can also accept and acknowledge and even respect what the division line does. Yeah. Okay. So it only temporarily separates. Okay. There's really only 2 mathematical functions. There's addition and subtraction.
Yeah.
Multiplication is just a more complicated form of addition, and division is just another way of subtracting. Okay.
Yep.
So we'll go back to the 1 divided by 2. So what are we going to do? We're going to reduce the complexity of the 2, and we're going to do it both possible ways. So if you take the 2 and you add a -1, you have 2 minus 1, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you take the 2 and you subtract a +1, you still have 2 minus 1.
Yeah, correct.
What is the answer to 2 minus 1?
2 minus 1. Like, you can flip it around.
But what's the answer to 2 minus 1?
2 minus 1 is 1. So you're going to come back to that 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Exactly. So now you've changed the expression from 1 divided by 2. You don't have to apologize. 1 divided by 2 now equals 1. No worries. 1 divided by 1 is equal to 1. 1 is equal to absolute certainty, 100% chance of the event occurring. So that was just a little exercise that I developed.
Like the way you do it is perfect too, because I think like you're saying, like when we start to overcomplicate the mathematical structure, if you will, we get confusion. So if you can simplify, and this is what this is all about, simplifying something that we have overcomplicated. Over time, we've managed to super complicate everything. We're going to add 11, 12, like 10, like 0 to 9 is simplistic. It's very, very simplistic. When we start to overcomplicate it, and yes, it does serve purpose, if you will, but generically, it's really as simple as 0 to 9. That's it. Like in the universal structure, it's 0 to 9. Outside of that, there is infinity, as we know. But for teaching, if you will, like for me, the easiest way I can explain it is there's 0 to 9 and there's A to Z. And that's pretty much philosophy, like break it down, smack bang, done. Like it's really easy. Then you can start to add in, you know, quantum entanglement, enmeshment, you know, all of those, you know, physics, dynamics, everything like that. You can start to add that in and it creates a big picture, if you will. But it is quite simplistic, which is the beauty of it, is that we can somehow, as human beings, we can complicate everything. Like we can make it like, no, you've got to have this and this and this and this and this. And then someone will sit under a tree and they'll gain everything, like the whole lot. They won't move, they won't speak a word, they don't communicate to anyone, and they have this wealth of wisdom and information. So that just goes to show us that it can be very, very simplistic. And sometimes when you're overcomplicating things, like you were saying, when you have these thoughts, oh, I'm not going to get the job, or I'm, you know, all of those things, you are overcomplicating your life path.
Yeah.
And so depending on how, you know, intrigued you are, how much you want to learn, how much you want to create, because we are very, very unique in that sense, you may complicate yours to the point where no one understands you, because like you've got so much information and you're just like, you know, they're like, I can't grasp that. Like, I don't get it. But again, I think the easiest way for us to help others understand is to simplify it down, to bring it down to a simplistic nature and then expand on that once they've grasped that information. So again, like school, you know, you start at kindy and you're taught, like they put a heap of toys in the center and you sit around it and it's like everyone share, play with those toys. But when you're finished, you've got to pack them up and leave them there. Now that's life. It's that simple. So we come here, we can play with all the toys, but when we leave, we have to leave the toys and we're supposed to share nice. So it's like the easiest way I can break it down. You know, like it's like you can say, oh, you know, he should have this much and she should have that much and blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, no one should have this much or that much. There's an abundance here for us to use, both in the physical sense and in the non-physical sense. So if everyone can just share nice with those toys.
Play nice, right?
Exactly, play nice. Common sense. If you don't want to be punched in the eye, don't go punching another kid in the eye. Like,
yeah,
it's
so simple.
Pretty, you know, like you don't want to lose a hand. Don't go, you know, like it's common sense. It really is. And so we can overcomplicate it. But basically, we knew as souls that we were coming down to a wealth of wisdom, you know, an abundance and love and joy and health and harmony, and that we could share it all. And so that was, you know, that was part therein of the divine plan, if you will, or source's plan. But you get the 7 sins, if you will. So, you know, greed, lust, envy, all these things. Now, you came here to learn maybe all of them or some of those, and to understand how non-beneficial they are for humanity. So, you know, they say jealousy is a curse. It really is. It really is. When you can accept someone's perception without judgment, so an open perception that their view, although it may be very, very different to yours, it is their perception in their now moment. So where we have come to the knowledge of infinity and we are balanced and aligned, we may come across individuals who are still, you know, there's one God, there's not many, or whatever it might be. And for them, in that now moment, for them, that is perfect for them. Yep. So we're not to say, no, that's not right. That's not our place to say that. No. And as they grow and evolve and become more aware and grasp these fractal elements that they have available to them, if you will, play with the toys, yeah, they will come to the realization that they too are an infinite being, and that they are a unique energetic signature of creation. So it's really simple. For us that have done the work, we say it and they're like, what do you mean? How'd you get that? Well, easy. But like for others, the journey may be more complex. And that doesn't necessarily discern them as being less educated or anything like that, because like, you know, we too have been through those journeys where we have studied religions, myths, you know, any sort of context, you know, that has been created by humankind. And that too has added to our puzzle, if you will, to help us understand that energy or energy in motion, emotion does have no limitation, and that it is an infinite thing. So as we go through, yes, the physical body will expire at some point. Can you look after it better? Can you maintain it for a longer period of time? Yes, most definitely. Are you so I've had some people, and I'll touch on this subject, say to me that this body is never going to die. I want to inform you that this body does have a timestamp, if you will, and that this body that you have will expire. However, your unique signature from creation will never expire, and you do have the choice as to whether or not stay in the, if you will, in the collective sense with source creation as a non-physical entity or being, or to reanimate and to add more information or observe more information, because some of us are, you know, adders, some of us are just observers, you know, so we're all,
and some are subtractors, you know.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yes.
One of the things that I wanted to address, only because it has to do with quantum mechanics. It's specifically, the term is coherence. And what's interesting about coherence is that it involves two wave interference patterns. There's constructive and destructive. Now, I like to use the word deconstructive because, again, positive and negative have the same absolute value, as we discussed with the prior sort of thought experiment that we conducted. With the way that constructive wave interference works is it requires two waveforms that have the same properties. And when those two waveforms combine, then the amplitude increases. It basically increases. Simple as that. Okay.
Correct.
It becomes more intense. Okay. That is a form of creation. Okay. Now, the destructive, and again, I'm going to use the word deconstructive wave interference pattern, begins with the same two waveforms. However, what you do is you pull them out of phase, or out of sync, if you like, by exactly 180 degrees. And then this thing called phase cancellation basically reduces the complexity, again, of, we'll call it the light, back to a more resonant state of being sound. And that is equally as creative, because sometimes these acts of destruction, they may seem horrible, they may seem terrible, but if they're meant to occur, and they will occur, then there's a reason for it. Maybe there is a clearing of the space that is required for a new entity to appear. And then, I like to use the word reanimate. A lot of people use the word reincarnation. Same thing.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's just say you came to observe something simple like the 7 sins, okay? And in that lifetime, you don't get it done. For whatever reason, you don't get it done. You may go back to source creation, and you may say to source creation, you know what, I didn't get that done, and I really, really want to understand that. Can I come back? And so you may reanimate in, it could be a tree. It could be, like, if you're an observer, you can come back as a tree, you know, and you can just be there. You can just be being, observing. Yeah. So, you know, there's you choose. Ultimately, this is what I want to get across, is that we have the ability to have freedom of choice. So, and that is in both the physical and in the non-physical. So when you have this freedom of choice, people say, oh, if you've reanimated, you did something wrong. Not necessarily. Some of us are just extremely intrigued by how planets work and how the human body works, so we come back and we're like, all right, I missed that bit. I'll get that done. Yeah. So where people have put this distortion in is that if you've reanimated, you've come back because you did something wrong. Not necessarily. Yes, it may well be that you in your last life, you were stuck in envy or you were stuck in lust. Yeah. And so you're coming back to rectify that. That can happen. Some call it dharma, right? So, and then others would say, I didn't come back to do that. I came back to learn, or I came back to observe because I didn't get I didn't get long enough last time, where I didn't grasp it, for whatever reason. It might have been their life was ceased, and, and some people will call them lost souls, if you will. So, they may not even have recollection of their last death. So, some might have been shot in the back of the head, for instance, going to an extreme. But if they were shot in the back of the head and they didn't know they died, right? So they go up and they're with creation, and then boom, they're back again. And they're like, well, I don't even know how I got back here, but like, I'm here. Well, it's as simple as like, okay, so dude, last time you came here to do such and such, and you got shot in the back of the head and you didn't know. And so like, you're back here and I'm telling you that, you know what I mean? So like, and off we go. And then they'll just align and off they go again. Like, they're like, okay, right. Oh, okay, I'm good. Like, okay, that's what it is. So it's one of those things as we go through. And again, we are unlimited and we are unfuckwithable is my best way to describe it, right? So if you can, as an aeon or even further on from that, understand that we are limitless. So we can, those senses, you can have all those senses. You can have all of them. It's when you're willing to accept that you can have them, and that you are going to use them for the greater good, if you will, of humanity. So rather than self-gain like this, I get information and I go, oh, I want to share that. Like, I want to share that because like it helped me so very much. So yes, we can put a monetary value on our services, if you will. But predominantly that information is available to everybody.
100%.
So it's a matter of tapping in. So, people say to me, I want to spend time with you and I want to get to know like what you know. And sometimes I'm like, guys, could you just like talk over there for a minute? I'm live trying to chat. Yeah. Thank you. I've got like them yapping. Right. So like you could say, okay, so a VIP course with me is $777, right? And that's not a lot of money if you're going to gain the wisdom to life, right? When you think about it, okay? People say to me, some people sell their soul, and I'm like,
that's like, that, yeah,
I just
no,
laugh.
it doesn't.
Like, because you cannot sell what is rightfully yours in the first place, and we can't sell a soul. So no one can take a soul. We are unique signatures from the source of creation. So if you say, I resonate with blue rays, right? So, but how many blue rays are in that color on the rainbow? There's heaps of different shades of blue and every part of the rainbow, the 7 colors in that rainbow, merge into another color and merge into another color and merge into another color, so on and so forth. So if, say, your blue ray, which is predominantly like an Arcturian field, if you will, there is a lot of information within that 7th ray, if you will. So, but again, we have this merge of colors and frequencies. And so we have the ability not only to be in that blue ray signature, if you will, but to resonate down into the green, the pink, like whatever whatever one you want to look at, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
wherever you want to go. We are not limited. So a lot of people say like, I only do this. You choose that. You are choosing that. When I channel everything from as far as Nibiru right back to here. Like it's like, and there's of beings in that, you know what I mean? So, and you can go further again and again and again. I will say though, when you are working in the quantum field, that it can be taxing on the physical body. So be aware and observant of not only the individuals you're working with, so how their body is coping with those quantum jumps, if you will, but also be aware of yourself and how you're coping through those transitions. So they're not visible other than to see, you know, someone might start yawning. If they start yawning, that's telling you that that information that you have given is probably enough, and just allow them to integrate that information. Yeah. So as you go along, or if you notice that they're sort of starting to sort of get like this, you know, in the body, you would be like, okay, so they've had enough for now, and we'll let them just sit with that, with knowledge that they will come back to you magnetically drawn, and they will seek that information in the next session or the next session, however many sessions that might take with you. So don't, we're getting a lot of individuals, especially now as we're moving into this field heavily, that are trying to get all the work done in one session. What I'm going to say is, yes, some of the individuals that you work with will have the capacity to be able to take those quantum downloads and to be able to sit and integrate them in one session. However, many will not be able to do that. So if you see them come into your field and there is a struggle of any sort, I would advise you to give them a small amount of information and tell them to go and to work on that, and then to come back to you when they've integrated that information, and then you can add another layer, if you will, of information to that, and another layer and another layer. So bringing them from 0 point all the way up through the 9 conscious, if you will, or, you know, like there's 9 conscious dimensions, 0 to 9, and then there's these 21 chakral conscious dimensions as well. So I have got a picture here somewhere. I'll show you if I can find it. I'm sort of chaotically, I'm calculated crazy, I call it. But like, let's see if we can find it for you. Not that one. It's in this one. We'll get there. So when I started, somewhere, yeah, here we go. All right. So this here is like, not going to show. Of course it's not. So it has 3 layers. So you can see there. And then we have, let's hope this is going to work, here. And then, it's not straight. Go this way, Kelly.
That's okay.
Here.
There we go.
So, yeah. So hopefully that is enough. And this is explaining the fractals, if you will. And so as we work with these individuals, we are helping them embody these fractals of information. And so that comes, like I said, so the Akashic wisdom is about 21 layers, and that runs from the chakral systems. So 7 with 1 above and 1 below. Then you have the pain body. This body here is like 12 layers or senses, if you will. Predominantly, we know at a maximum right now about 8 of those senses, like you described. So predominantly, most would understand 5 in the basic sense, leveling up to 7, again to 8, working through these 20, like these 12 senses that we have availability to. Okay.
Awesome.
On the angelic level or the etherical level, we have another 7 layers of conscious awareness or information. So these are like imagination and things like where you create. So like that's where you're creating. Yeah, that's where you're getting in there and you're like, oh, like me with my safety net idea. Yeah. So it's like, okay, in entropy, we lose shit, right? I'm like, okay, so we need to stop that. Like, because like that's a pain in the ass, like having to come back all the time and be like, I forgot, you know. So I'm like, why can't we reanimate with full recollection? And so sources like how, I said, well, how about we put these safety nets that catch this information? And sources like, go, off you go, like go do it,
I like
go
that.
play. So that's my little input, if you will, into my now moments. And I do believe that, you know, if you can see with no eyes and hear with no ears and feel with no body, you understand infinity. So beyond the physicality, so being open enough to observe without judgment that there is more than meets the eye, because that we see is nothing more than a projection of what we create both here and in our soul being. So as you're creating, you imagine that you're still, and there are 77,000 pieces of information coming at you in 0.017 of a second, and you are processing that with your mind, body, and spirit to create and project this now moment. That's pretty well how I see it.
I love it. It makes perfect sense to me. I don't recall during this conversation anything that really didn't make sense. I know I may have had a couple of questions here and there, but very easily resolved into the answers that I sort of felt ahead of time. So yeah, and I do really appreciate your ability to communicate using the terminology with the understanding of that terminology. You don't just use, I see a lot of people use certain terminology when I know based on their descriptions that they don't, maybe not yet have a full grasp or understanding of the concept. And that's okay. One of the things that I also remember that I wanted to address that you touched on earlier is the whole idea of the belief system is that it is a means of resonance, plain and simple. So if you believe in something and somebody tells you that your belief is wrong, they're invalidating your very existence. And that's very much an imposition. And it's spiritual abuse if you want to look at it, you know, and it happens quite frequently. And a lot of people might have good intentions. I not too long ago blocked somebody that was just trying to be a fear monger. And, you know, when I used the terminology about faith, what they did was they said that, oh, anybody that claims to have faith but doesn't know the truth is hiding behind fear. It's like, okay, well, first of all, you're assuming to know what I know. Okay. The only thing that a human being is capable of knowing is how they are currently feeling. Everything else is going to be a guess, an estimate, an assumption, an opinion, a thought, a belief, an idea, whatever. We don't know what anybody's full story is. We may have bits and pieces, so we might be able to relate to a certain extent based upon a similar experience, and then that way we could say, hey, you know what, we're brother and sister because we've experienced something that is sort of a similar, that has a similar function. But I will never claim to know how somebody is currently feeling about the reality, because that's up to them to determine what it is that defines their reality. I also don't like, I've been accused of telling people what to think, for example. And it's like, no, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not here to tell you what I'm not.
I've had the same. Yeah. It's like, especially when they don't understand, if they're having trouble grasping some of that information, you will get like a negative, like I was saying to you, like if you feel that, like when you're working with somebody, if there is this like density pushing back, they're probably got a little bit more work on the inside that they have to do. So I always say, imagine that everything we're viewing is somewhat like a mirror. And if you can embody those aspects with full love and knowledge that somewhere within you, that too lies. And if you have already healed it, there will be a non-reactiveness to that instance. So, and the monks are great at that, right? So, they don't even smile when they hear something really funny. They'll just sit like straight faced and be like,
Right.
Now that is control at the ultimate, like if you can sit through something that is absolutely fucking hilarious and not even grin, like I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
I don't know.
Like, I laugh. Like some people say shit and I'm like,
I don't think I even want to be in that state of mind. I would much rather express my emotions. This is something that I've come to understand about our society. The idea that we have to control our emotions. Why?
No. Okay, so there's choice again. So free will of choice. So their expression may be no expression.
Yeah.
And this is where that again, the openness of being able to understand, maybe not even fully understand, but to some degree comprehend that is their unique path or journey that they have chosen.
One word.
So go.
Respect.
Yes, 100%. Yes, beautiful. Perfect. Yeah. Common sense and respect. Yeah. So it's not rocket science. Like we know this. It's quite simplistic. It does get lost in the mass of information that we have. Mm-hmm. So, while we're busy grasping these concepts and ideas and information, the common sense, maybe the basic information that is naturally there, to help us exist, it gets sort of lost or hindered. So simplifying it, so again, meditation, to be able to sit in that state of just being, to take a breath, to pause, and to be able to go, okay, what wouldn't I want done to me? And then instantly it will flood you with all the things that you see as non-beneficial to humanity as a whole. Because ultimately, if you don't want it done to you, we don't want it done to anybody else, right? So again, we go in with the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It's a very easy way. If you don't want to be poor and lack and all of those things, well, then you don't enhance that. You know what I mean? Like if you're thinking it, if you're living it, you are making that conscious choice.
You're drawing it to you.
Exactly, like a magnetic field, which we know keeps us here, right? So we know that, like that's what keeps us from floating off Earth, right? So like that magnetic field and the gravitational pull and causality, if you will, all keeps us here, right? So if you are constantly negating lack all the time, lack, and want and need, you're going to absorb lack and want and need. The minute you sit with, I'm abundant, I'm infinite, I need for nothing, it will come to me instantaneously. Whether that's information, because we all choose different. Some choose money, some choose information, some choose, love, more love, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah. And each to their own, I say, right? So, you know, for me, I believe the key to life is unconditional love. That is like the bomb. Like if you want to drop a bomb on it, like drop the mic, it's unconditional love. If you can unconditionally love everyone who exists, including yourself, ultimately you have no discrepancies. You have no problems because we ultimately create through whether it's perfectionism or, like you said, OCD or high functionality, we create these distortions, if you will, and we magnetically and kinetically we grab them and we're like, oh yeah, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. And so even myself, you know, I'm always, I say I'm not only am I the teacher, but I'm the student. I just have that mindset constantly. So when I was actually talking with David and he was like, you just said, I want. And I was like, thank you. Like checking me, you know, like, because this is, and that's what we do, you know, that's why we can communicate at this level, is because as advanced as you might be as a being, we are always learning because we have this human form that has exterior conditioning that will bounce us back into like, I'm grounded, I'm human, oh, I need this, I need that, yeah. And then so then we go infinity and I don't need shit, you know. Like, so it's nice to have these little, and I say they're soulmates that remind us. They're like, you know, a little sticky note on the wall and they go, hey, you don't want, stop that. Like, you know, and we go, oh, righto, back on track again, off I go. Do you know what I mean? So that's the beauty of the fact that we work as a beautiful symphony as a whole.
I love
so
that.
if you imagine that each one of us is an instrument in an orchestra, and with all of us in harmony, we create a beautiful symphony. So this is how I see life, that, you know, each of us has, you know, we're a different, so one's a flute, one's a trombone, one's, you know, the bass drum, you know, like, and then together, like on their own, it's just one sound, right? Beautiful in itself, absolutely amazing, but together we have a symphony. And that is where, as all these puzzle pieces that I see, like a canvas, if you will, as we piece together all these unique pieces of the puzzle, we can see a beautiful artwork of creation. And so it's not only do we get the sound, so the symphony, but we get a visual like a puzzle with all these beautiful, unique pieces. Being able to observe them at a neutral standpoint is the key, again, to be able to, without judgment, understand at a greater level the audacity that is life. Like it's phenomenal. It is, you know, it blows your mind when you sit in that moment where you understand the concept, just the concept alone of life. It is mind-blowing. And so when we talk of like the creator or you know, the original creator of creation, like, you think we're clever. Like we got nothing on that. I'm telling you now, like I've sat and spoke with Source and just been like mind blown, you know, like just like in awe, absolute awe. And you know, you feel small, like you feel small, like, you know, like a little, like a grain of sand almost, you know, like when you look at it like that. So, you know, I'm grateful for each and every single day that not only do I get to be a student, but I also get to be a teacher in this life. I've had the blessing of being able to create some amazing human beings here on this earth. And in doing so, that is, if you will, like my little addition to humanity. And the same, like when I'm educating other children or adults, it is like a little contribution from Source. So it's like we are always the vessel, is how I say it. So whether you're a vessel for somebody else to communicate or a vessel for your same self to communicate, or whether you're a vessel for source creation to communicate, in the end, that is all. This is a vessel that we utilize in order to communicate some form of information, whatever that may be. So some will be speaking in glossolalia or light language or tongue, and they don't completely understand that. This is a way of us realigning the neurons and such in our brain. You are not crazy, by the way, just so that you can be clear. I'll clear that up straight away. You are accessing parts of your mind. The average human uses 10% of the brain. We have another 90% that you can use. So when you start to access these lobes of matter, and you're firing neutron like energy into them, trying to break it down easier, it creates what we call glossolalia. And so when we're speaking in tongues, some of us do it more often than others, but we are actually accessing akashic records of our own and others to help them remember, if you will, and to process that information. And then it is the fastest way to speak in native tongue to actually sort of expedite someone's journey into the all-knowing, if you will. Right. It is not the only way. So don't freak out if you're one of the viewers here that hasn't yet spoken in tongue or glossolalia. You're not behind the 8 ball. Don't panic. It will come through at some point. And each unique journey is just that. So it is very, very unique. So don't think like because I do get a lot of people that come to me quite panicked. I've done no coding. I've done no this. I've done no that. And I'm like, it's all good. It's okay. Like, you're okay. Take a breath. You're okay. Like, it's not a race. This is not a race. We are here to enjoy this lifetime. So don't be thinking like, oh my God, I'm not doing it. You know, I'm behind. It's not that. It definitely is not that. I had a 19-year-old girl come to me and she's like, oh, I'm not extending. And I'm like, you're 19. Like, seriously, go live. Go be a kid. Go be a fucking kid. Like, you know, like what it's not this is not a race. This is not a competition. None of this spiritual work, no one's better than anyone else. No one's in a race. It is not a competition over who's the best reader, who's the best blah, blah, blah. Because like I said in my poem, all these seers and healers, they're starting to look like liars and dealers. So just fucking stop. It is not a competition. Like, seriously, it never has been. And if you're looking at it like it's a competition, you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're not going to be going anywhere. Because flow, as you know, it is just that. And that's where once you can flow freely, like the river, like you stop a river and you bank it up, it's going to get stagnant and shit. Like, you're not going to want to drink that water, right? So it's the same. If you're saying, I'm the best, I'm awesome, like blah, 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 you're going to get stagnant. You're going to become stagnant because you're not learning. There is so much to learn. I know a drop in the ocean. So people say to me, you know so much. I know fuck all, honestly, like at the end of the day. And I can say that, and not in a way like, you know, I'm stupid, because I know I'm extremely intelligent. However, in a multitude of universes, we know very little. Extremely, like a grain of sand at the ocean is what we know. So if you're limiting yourself that I'm the best at this and I know everything, you are literally limiting yourself. So you'll become stagnant. So when you go, okay, so I am constantly learning, I am open to learn, I am non-judgmental, I know a bit that I can share. There you go. Just like that. Just like that. And it's fucking cool. Tell me it's not cool.
It's beyond cool. You were talking about the symphony earlier, and my first instrument was cello, and I remember the first time I saw a symphony orchestra play. I believe I was maybe 8 years old, and it was like, you know,
I know,
like,
right?
oh my gosh! And what's funny about, you use the word composition. So we are not only the composers of the music, we are the conductors, and we are also the musicians, correct?
Yeah, and the instrument too. Like, so we're all that. Yeah, like we are literally all of that. So if you can embody that without judgment, right? So some days I'm the conductor, some days I'm the instrument, some days I'm the artist, like some days I'm just the sound, like, so it's like when you do that, dependent on your role that you're playing in that now moment for the individual, I might sit with you, Michael, and it's quite an intense session. Yeah. But for others, it can be quite simplistic. It can be as simple as like I play my music, I'll ring my bowls, I'll do a card read, and that gets them, their little bit of the journey that they needed right then. Because everybody is seeking a unique part. Hey, baby. And so she's like, come in to say hi.
What's your dog's name?
I call her Muff, but her actual name is Zaisha. And she's like my scrappy dog. She looks like a homeless dog, but she's not, I promise.
I love dogs.
She's very vocal, and sometimes I'll be doing a channeling and she'll get vocal, and she like talks, she like says, I love you, like this. She's very cool.
That's awesome.
She's an amazing companion. Hey, here, yes. You can pinch my brain cells from.
So my TV went boom.
It went boom.
Yeah, dead boom.
But
I brought it in on the 7th of 12th, 2019.
Okay.
Yes.
It has a 3-year warranty.
Right. So you need to get it'll have a serial number on the back.
No, she already told me I just got to take it to the Boytown store.
Awesome.
And they will they from there call up TCL themselves, and then they send
Perfect.
it off. Because it's through the store, so it's already sent an inquiry to the one in Airport.
Awesome.
So I just got to figure out how to get down to the Bordertown store. But she said check
maybe
the date.
ask Jai.
Yeah, she said check the date on the thing, and if it's not over 3 years, even if it's 2 weeks out, they'll still do it. But the 7th or the 12th, it's like as of this year, it'll be 3 years. We're not in the.
You're not in the 12th month, so that's fine.
Okay, sweet. So it's been like
so yeah,
years, so
you're okay. All right, I'm going back to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mum. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Kids, you love them. I mean,
it's awesome.
Like I said, like there's this beautiful balance that we can find where not only are we present for others, but we're also present for our children and our family members. And so if like people say, oh, don't you find it to be rude if you're interrupted by your children? Does that not? And I'm like, no. And so this is, again, a judgment, right? So if you can just think, okay, so I'm present with you, Michael, but my child needs me, so I'll just hold a bit of space still here. So splitting the energy, if you will, because we can, and then, sharing that moment. So, for all the mums out there that are like, I can't do my spiritual work because my kids are there. Bullshit. Stop it. Stop limiting yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. Because we're all human, right? So, some people say, oh, you swear, Kelly. And it doesn't mean I'm awful. Like it's, you know what I mean? And it's actually been clinically proven that people that swear actually are of high intellect. So it's maybe we're just like over labels and we're like that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
I think if you're using it every second word, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it can be.
Those words, you know what I mean? Like you're not using your words, if you will. But there are times where it's just like, like I'm going to drop an F-bomb or I'm going to say shit, or something like that. So, I think a little less judgment around the individuals that are starting to really show themselves. They might be venting, or, some of my lyrics, my poetry can be quite deep, and people are like, oh, why do you share that? And I'm like, because it's real. Like, I'm not going to share a bad day with you guys, because you know what? It's not always fluffy. It's not always smooth sailing.
It's not always rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, like you look at the sea, and some days those waves, they're crashing, and it's like you'd be like strapped in like a mofo, like you're like this, like floating and hanging on, like claws in the side of the seat, like, oh my God, you know, like this.
Yeah.
But then you get past that storm and this beautiful calm sea with a beautiful breeze, and that is life in general. That is life. Is that we can't expect it to be smooth seas all the time, because that's not how the universe works. We know
No.
this. So for anyone that's there every day, they're on their live feed and it's fluffy and it's roses and it's unicorns, they're full of shit. Like, they're full of shit, because it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So yes, there are days in your ascension process, if you will, that you are literally going to be like, what the, like, what is this? But outside of that, so when coming out, I call it entropy. So those rough waves is like entropy. So you're going diving down, you're learning, and as you bounce back up to those smooth seas, you have another big lot of information to integrate. And so if you're resisting those seas, so you're swimming against the current, like, fuck that, I'm out of here, like, no way, you're resisting information.
Resistance.
Whereas you just let go and float. Just float. You'll grasp all that information and you'll come over the storm. You can strap in real tight while you float, right? But like, float across that wave, coming into the smooth sea, grasping all that information. And that's really all we want. You know, at the end of the day, we're here and we're absorbing. We're like sponges. We're like, what can I learn today? What can I grab today? You know, how can I enhance what I already know here? You know, and so this is this constant teacher-student relationship with the universe. So be willing, not limiting yourself. So be willing that maybe I don't know it all. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, there really is no right or wrong, but the minute you start processing it like that, you can actually get a grasp on how big this is and how simplistic it is at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's simple.
Beautiful.
It's beautifully simple. It's amazingly intricate. So if you enjoy paying attention to the details and you want to go deep on a subject, do it. If you want to challenge yourself, my point of view in terms of the greatest challenge is to do really the only thing that we're here to learn, and that's to love all. Now,
100%.
it gets confusing when you have things that you don't like. There are things that are going to disturb you, things that will bother you, things that will trigger you. I don't feel that when you express yourself truthfully and honestly, that that you are doing anything wrong. I don't think you're always necessarily being judgmental. When you, for example, when you're honest with a friend and you tell them, hey, look, you know what? This is my observation. This is my evaluation. And I'm offering you a way to better understand yourself. And if you are open to receiving the information, you will accept the truth and you will expand every time.
100%. Yeah.
Every time. Now, I think the way to know the difference between being judgmental and being an evaluator is if you're in the present moment and you're honest with yourself, you're honest about what you're feeling, you're honest about whatever, thoughts are popping into your mind, and you're honest about the emotions. To me, it's all just informational. And if you allow for the transformation to occur and you listen, so it's okay to ask the question. It's okay to maybe state your case. Where we run into problems is where we are thinking that we know everything there is to know about the situation, we make assumptions, we have expectations, we become very attached to certain things like that. And that's also okay because it's part of the process. So how do you know the difference? Well, how do you feel during the experience? Can you be a passionate warrior, a peaceful warrior that is simply processing the information, or are you going to be more of a combatant? I think that everybody that exists, everything that exists actually deserves respect because it exists. And if it didn't exist, then obviously it wouldn't matter. But everything that does exist matters because everything is a piece of this universe.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said, bro. Well said.
Simple.
100%.
Simple.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Cool.
So, you know, like, you know, I can sit here and I mean, we could talk for hours and hours and hours, which we would, I know. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, what we can say is that if anyone that's watching this feed resonates with anything that has been discussed in this live feed, don't be afraid to reach out, to have a chat, you know, and don't limit yourself. Like, for God's sakes, do not limit yourself. You know, it's really, if there's one thing that I witness in this now moment is the amount of limitation that individuals are putting upon themselves. Whether that be that, you know, through greed, envy, whatever it might be, for whatever reason they're doing it, just sit with it, process why you're doing it, and move beyond that, because that is when you'll really take off. Like, you'll really start to take off and you'll feel more aligned in yourself. If you can align this, then it's really easy to align with others. Everyone wants to be a seer. Everyone wants to be this, wants to be a healer, wants to be that. Heal you first. Okay? Hurt people, hurt people. That's the best thing I can say to you guys. So if you are still hurting, stop, reevaluate, heal yourself, then go out and do your thing. It might only take you 7 days if you really intensely sit with yourself. So, you know, I blindfolded myself even like to enhance other senses. You know, I went like a couple of days blindfolded just to see what that was like. Like, what's it like to be blind? You know, like, you know, earplugs for a day so you can't hear. You've got to learn to read lips. You know, there's, you know, don't speak, like I said, for a longer period of time. So sometimes taking away a sense will help you to identify a sense that you're not actually using. So break it down, simplify it, sit with it, and then go forth.
And appreciate the experience, because really that's what reality is all about. It's the experience, the opportunity to experience life. Simple, very simple.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
It is.
I think this is a good time to sort of make any final conclusive statements. Do you have anything that you want to sort of wrap things up in order to maybe give a final send off? I would love to have more of these conversations, and I think if we do them on Zoom, then we are sort of documenting it and recording it for the purposes of sharing it with as many people that are willing and wanting to listen and are able to. So do you have anything, any final thoughts?
No, not really. I think we've covered probably enough for today. We don't want to like fully overload individuals. So look, what I can say again, if there's anything that resonated with you guys in this chat with both me and Michael, don't be afraid to reach out to us to discuss those topics if you would like to. Join in and really be part of it. If you know, you can never stop learning. So just remember, we are unlimited and we are unfuckwithable. So if you just remember that, don't create boundaries that are non-beneficial for yourself. Really trust in yourself and just love with all that you are. Like that, at the end of the day, the biggest thing we have is the ability to love one another unconditionally. So if I'm sending someone away, like finishing a thing, I always say, I'll say a little prayer. I wish you love, health, peace, joy, harmony, and abundance. And I wish that for everyone in this now moment, because that's what I would like. So, we can sort of finish it on that. And
Awesome.
I'll ring a bell, which we normally do, just to take us out. I did ring one at the start, but it was before we got going.
Awesome.
I wish you all well. And thank you, Michael. I'm super grateful to have been able to be in your presence and to share some information and have a cool old chat. And yeah, we'll do this again. 100% we'll do this again. But yeah, hats off. You're doing amazing. And it was awesome.
It was a pure joy and an honor. I'm not sure how long we've been connected on Facebook, but I'm very happy to finally speak with you and see your face. And yeah, let's have more conversations. And thank you for your time. I learned a lot. I always
me too.
Man, I just really have fun. I feel
that's
like
what it's about. Yeah.
I've experienced enough to know what I don't like. I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like bullies. I don't like arrogance. I'm going to leave the conversation with a little saying that I came up with a couple of two weeks ago, whatever. Ignorance is the abyss. Innocence is bliss.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I'll finish with the find source. That's how you go.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Peace, love, and light, guys.
Kelly, thank you so much. Namaste, mahalo nui, aloha, and have an awesome day. And why not have the greatest day of your life starting right now?
Beautiful. Thank you. You too. Mwah. Till next
All right.
time.
Ciao for now.
Ciao.